Hello, and thank you for joining us. Today we will be talking about how you can effectively report and inquire in JD Edwards in real time without IT. Your host, Glenn Wyrick, has worked with JD Edwards software for over 15 years and knows all the struggles that can come with trying to report out of your ERP. He's here to show you how easy it can actually be. Over to you, Glenn.
Let's start with a question. What do these three things have in common? To give you a clue, Henry Ford said about the Model A, if I had asked people what they wanted, they would have said faster horses. There was, of course, a time when people didn't know what a car was, so they didn't know to ask for it. But now that cars have arrived, we basically can't live without them. Google is a similar story. Just a few years ago, none of us were probably sitting around saying, I wish there was a window where I could ask any question on my mind and get the answer back in just a few seconds. And the iPad example is probably obvious. So now let's talk about a problem that is likely to be occurring at your company. CFO.com says there is a lot of pressure on organizations to take raw data and turn it into useful information in a time frame that suits the company. And unfortunately, we've really been talking about this problem for many, many years. So what are you asking for to fix that problem? Very often, when people want more information out of their ERP systems, they start asking for reports. And we would like to suggest that that might be a lot like asking for faster horses. BloorResearch.com states, we have been able to produce reports for years. Today, the business wants answers now in a self-service manner without reliance on IT. Today, we're going to spend a little bit of time then talking about moving away from the old paradigm of building more and more static reports and instead focusing how to get business answers in a self-service mode to the business users at the moment they're needed. We're going to focus on some areas that are typically difficult challenges at a lot of companies and show how we can solve these quite simply and quickly. We'll focus a little bit on financials built for the average business user, as well as integrated budgeting and forecasting. Then we'll move into the power of analytics when they're combined with a real-time solution. And then we'll summarize how all of this can be delivered in an ad hoc mode, delivering self-service answers at the moment the business user needs them. So let's start with real-time financials. Now in this first example, we're jumping into Insight Unlimited software. This is live software over a live JD Edwards instance. And we're looking at a consolidated executive income statement. And in this case, we're viewing it through the casual business user interface, which we call the console. From the console, a business user with no training can actually use what would traditionally be a report as live interactive self-service information. For example, the way this was published to me, I have 4 different companies in my view. But for my job, I only care about company 3. So I'm able to edit the companies and now my consolidation reduces. But different than a consolidation tool like Hyperion, this consolidation is over live data. What benefit does that mean for me? It means I, for example, can begin to interrogate my information. So for example, I've opened up a more detailed view of my revenues in my Denver branch, and I can see that I actually have a negative variance highlighted in red. Now I want to show you some extra power that is only capable when you are looking at live data on your ERP. It is my ability to drill in real time to the lowest level of detail, where here I now see the exact GL transactions that total into the balance we were just looking at. I can toggle between the two. I can send my information, for example, off to Excel. So we'll notice quickly this just popped into Excel, where I can work with it further. You'll notice that the subtotaling and all the formatting showed up in Excel directly from the product. So this is what we mean by end users having the flexibility to really work with the information in a real-time way. Let's look at another example. Here we're still looking at financial information, but bear in mind that this is information delivered in a way that business users outside of finance can manage their operation. So for example, I have access to the profitability by industry for the products in my business division. And here I can see revenue, costs, etc. Now, if I wanted to, I could drill, for example, to see which customers are contributing to this revenue. But in the interest of time, I think I'll look at a different example. Here I see my top 10 customers grossing the revenue into the numbers we've been looking at.
And from here, I will take a view of finding out what is my customer activity. Now, for those of you that get this granular in your accounts receivable data, I'll highlight something that's a very challenging answer to get in JD Edwards. Here I have the gross amount for the accounts receivable for this customer and the cash receipt that they've paid us, therefore the open amount, as well as discounts, unapplied cash, chargebacks, and write-off. This would not be possible in a typical BI implementation because the level of detail is too low. This is not possible in JD Edwards because JD Edwards doesn't combine data in this type of a view. So hopefully this first example has really highlighted for you a quick, easy way for non-sophisticated business users to understand what's going on in their operation from a standpoint of finance.
The key benefit of this approach is an immediately improved company-wide financial understanding, which leads to improved visibility, smarter decision-making, and bottom-line results. Now let's talk about integrated budgeting and forecasting. Again, I'm jumping into Insight Unlimited.
I am still in that console casual business user's view, but what I'm looking at here, you can see, is a budget input form. I'll highlight just a couple things to you. First of all, these actual amounts are coming live from JD Edwards right now in this moment. The budget numbers have been entered by a business contributor. To do so, the business contributor would click Enter Budget. Now you can see that these cells have come active. And not only am I as a budget contributor able to begin entering numbers, but this variance column is live and dynamic, so that as I enter my budget numbers, I can immediately see the impact on any variance from my live JD Edwards actuals from last year relative to the budget I'm entering this year. Another key thing here is that we have full commenting. So as the business contributor, I can add comments in real time so that I can make sense of the entries that I'm making. The final point is we have full modeling capability. So if, for example, the owner of this budget wanted to set up a model that automatically spread the amounts across my seasonality for the year, that is fully possible.
The benefit of this approach is that you are enabling a more agile enterprise. Because the setup, management, and usage of budgeting becomes so simple, a number of our customers have moved to monthly forecasting and continuous budgeting. This immediately raises your company's visibility to planning numbers and drives overall improved performance. Now let's take a look at real-time analytics in motion. Analytics are often associated with traditional BI implementations and data warehouses, but it's often not possible to leverage the power of analytics over real-time data in a way which end users can easily define and consume the details without IT. Now let's take a look at how we can enable analytics over both highly consolidated and transactional details, all in real time.
In our first example, we've taken standard purchase order information from the ERP and we've kind of bent it around to turn it into something much more meaningful for the business user. Now, by the way, it would take on average about 30 minutes for a power user, a business professional, to create the view that we're looking at, and then with the click of one button, publish it out to the typical casual business user as I am at this moment. Now, what this enables me to do is to pick anything off of my item master and look at the average price that I'm paying for that item across all of the vendors that supply it to me. And employing powerful analytics in a very simple way, we've determined what the average price is that we pay for this particular item, my network tracker, and to which suppliers am I paying more than the average or less. What I can see here very quickly and easily is that we pay CenturyBit more money and give them more orders than any other vendor, yet they cost 110% more than the average for this part. So let's see the power of real-time analytics in motion. First of all, if I'm paying them a premium, I would certainly hope that this supplier is reliable. So let's ask the question, how reliable is this particular supplier? I am now moving live through my ERP data to determine that CenturyBit actually has delivered 100% of its deliveries late. So I think I'd like to understand more about just how late those were. And again, using the flexibility of our tool to combine different tables together, We've actually combined the receipts information with the purchase order information. Another challenging answer to sometimes get out of the native ERP screens. And we've done a simple analytical calculation of the days late. And what I can see that some of my orders have been 15 days late and some have been 23 days late. Again, very rapidly, I've answered the entire question from a quick, simple view over my real-time data. In my next example, we're actually looking at data coming from two different database systems. On the right side is the data coming from my JD Edwards ERP system, and this is my GL transactions data. On the left side is a third-party payroll system called ADP. And what we want to ensure is that the payroll entries that we load in batch into the ERP match. Now, typically, to combine data from two different systems, you might consider a BI solution. However, the challenge of combining this type of data in a data warehouse is that to really get down to the meaningful answer, you need more detail than what the warehouse will support. Here, for example, I am starting with a summarized view that might be more typical to BI, where on a single line, I can see each batch number that has come into JD Edwards from the third-party system. And we're using exception-based formatting to highlight only when I have a problem, so I can see that two of my batches do not balance. Now I can do what is challenging in BI. Once again, same story as my last example. I am drilling in real time down to the transactional details on both sides of two different systems. Here I've gotten down to the line item details in the payroll system that make up that batch. Likewise, on the JD Edwards side, I've gotten down to the meaningful detail. Jumping back then, this solution highlights for me, first of all, that I have a problem between my two systems and enables me to drill down to identify exactly where the problem is occurring. For my final analytics example, I've pulled together what is typically a very difficult answer to get from your ERP. In fact, we've provided this view to many of our JD Edwards and EBS customers because they haven't ever had such an easy way to answer this question. Very simply, what we've been able to do is combine the purchase order information with the invoice information, with the payment information, with the goods received information, to give the entire view of what items have I purchased, have they been vouchered for invoice, have they been paid, and do my payments match the actual receipts? Without really inspecting any of the columns, I can tell you that if this column is coming back with zeros, then I'm in a happy place. But if I'm coming back with a number in this column, it tells me that my payments do not match my receipts. Very quickly, I can drill once again, of course, through my live ERP data to understand what is past due relative to this receipt and this payment. Here I have the exact details, the payment numbers, the receipt numbers, as well as an analytic calculation that is days past due with conditional formatting that tells me how far out of my tolerance this is.
These examples highlight the power of turning complex data into simple-to-use business answers. This allows your staff to focus less time on running reports and more time on running the business. The final topic to discuss is ad hoc and self-service. This entire demonstration has highlighted how users work with information in real time, interrogating data as needed, and drilling to the relevant answers in a self-service mode. So hopefully you've seen that by putting a simple solution in the hands of your business users, your company can make smarter, faster decisions.
Insight Unlimited goes live in under 1 hour. It provides self-service answers on day one while providing access to all JD Edwards data, always in real time, delivering advanced capability like analytics in a simple solution made specifically for business users. In a recent paper done by Bloor Research, the author Philip Howard suggests that you consider a single purpose-built solution that addresses the breadth of financial and business requirements holistically as an alternative to the Oracle stack. And in that paper, which you can download at the link here, it's a very nice comparison on page 6, which details the pros and cons of many of the solutions available to you. Hopefully this can help you as you decide how to fill the gaps that you currently have in getting information out of your ERP. Stop asking for faster horses, stop asking for more reports, and insist on getting more business answers. Thank you very much.